Some of you may have been delighted to hear that I made the parish priest cry. Others may say, typical of me, and I should be ashamed of myself. I would like to tell you a story about this parish priest, and also what it led me to in my work, and what I hope through some experiential work will help you make changes in your life. I had just trained as a reflexologist a couple of years. It's a practice that the medical profession would call tomfooey. I happen to believe very strongly in contact with other human beings helps them heal on a physical, emotional and spiritual level. The parish priest, I'll call him Father Joe, was an elderly gentleman who thought it was tomfooey. However, his best friend had told him that I had helped him with a back complaint. And very reluctantly and very sceptically, he decided to visit, because the alternative was to have a major operation. So Father Joe came along and I explained to him what I was going to do, and I was just going to work by stimulating reflex points in his feet. In excruciating pain, Joe got on my couch and lay down. I held his feet very gently. He had never experienced this before, and I did not want to be too strong in my motions. But as I pressed his foot, a large tear escaped his closed eyelid. And I ignored that, but then another, and another, and another escaped his closed eyelids. And I thought perhaps, even though I was being very gentle, I was hurting him. And I said, "Do you want me to stop?" He didn't speak, but he slowly shook his head. And I said, "Will I continue?" And again, he nodded. For the next hour, I didn't go any further into any manipulations of his feet, because for the next hour, tears flooded not only his face, but my couch and his clothes. I didn't speak, I waited for him. And eventually he stopped, opened his eyes, and he said, "I haven't been touched for 65 years, since I was 5 and my father died." At the age of 5, I became the man of the house. I didn't accept any hugs I was the man. And for 65 years he had not been touched. And obviously for 65 years he didn't touch his parishioners either. So there was a huge gap between them. That was my first very profound experience of the importance of touch. Science now knows a lot more about the effects of human contact. But way back after the Second World War in Dresden, there was a hospital for infants. And there was Ward 3 and Ward 4 in this hospital. And in Ward 4, the children were not thriving. They were very pasty, they weren't taking the milk properly, they had all sorts of digestive problems and cried a lot. But in Ward 3, the children were thriving, and they were putting on weight, they were rosy-cheeked, and they were gurgling with laughter all the time. And the matron brought in people to examine the ventilation systems. They were receiving the same nutrition. They couldn't find any discernible difference. Ironically, except that in Ward 3, it was actually not kept as clean. And a few days later, after having numerous discussions about what we could do about these poor children that weren't thriving, the matron came in early to admonish the cleaner in Ward 3 because of the standards of hygiene. And as she was about to enter the door, she paused, horrified, because the cleaner, instead of cleaning, was playing with the kids. She was lifting them up and singing a lullaby to each one of them, putting them back in the cot, surreptitiously cleaning around it and moving to the next cot and doing exactly the same. Initially horrified, and then amazed, and then utterly joyful. They had discovered, this matron had discovered the difference. Touch. Touch is so important. Babies they know now who aren't touched just don't thrive. Babies in intensive care don't thrive as well as those who are being touched. Now science has moved a long way since then, and they can actually measure scientifically the effects of touch. A 10-minute hug actually affects your entire nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and they know how. Because there are receptors in our skin that actually stimulate the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve starts at the base of the skull and just travels the entire length of our bodies. And as it travels, it's actually bringing feel-good chemicals to all our organs. It's stimulating our central nervous system, and people who are touched regularly have a better immune system. It lowers blood pressure. It helps the heart muscle. It helps the colon. Helps the kidneys. It helps every aspect of the human body. They know this, but we have been conditioned through 24-hour television, through negative politics, to not touch people. And obviously, when I trained as a reflexologist, my director wouldn't allow me to work with the most disabled of my clients because there were too many abuse cases around at the time. Ironically, he subsequently became a client of mine, but he didn't feel it was safe for me to encourage people to practice good old-fashioned touch. A 10-second hug can save a life, but ironically, we don't touch. Especially when someone has been bereaved or ill, we don't know what to do. We don't know what words to say, we don't know how to communicate with people. I had a woman say once, she noticed after being bereaved, people walk to the other side of the road rather than say I'm sorry or speak to them because they didn't know what to say. But I say to you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that you don't need to say a word. You just need to touch that person. Following a recent death a few months ago in Westport, I went into the where the body was, and there was a huge queue of people. I didn't know the woman at all, but I knew her husband from he worked in Kelly's, and he was a beautiful, beautiful man who would have gone out of his way to help anybody, but I didn't know his wife. I went up to her and I held her hand, and I held her hand, and I held her hand. She didn't in the end want to let go because I'd made a connection that nobody else made as they went up and shook hands, as we all do. But I felt I needed to communicate something to this woman whose husband I knew in such a lovely way. And she started to talk to me about him until the queue got so long, I was tapped on the shoulder. She didn't want to let go. I have found how important it is when I'm working with people just to touch them. It affects every single organ in the body. Now, when going up to somebody, if you've noticed the new Prime Minister of Canada and how he greeted Trump, and how Trump has been vilified for pulling people in to a handshake, he put his hand on his shoulder. And I can guarantee you, whatever happens next, he has made the most important contact with Trump than any other foreign visitor. He held onto his arm and he held onto his hand. He touched him, and I guarantee you he's touched him more than just his head in a greeting. But we talk about touch as being, there's certain ways we have been civilized people communicate with each other now. There's the Hollywood kiss in the air in case your lipstick gets damaged and stuff. It's nothing. It's not even communicating on any level. It's not communicating. Then there's the cheek to cheek again. You're just wasting your time if you really want to communicate with someone. But and also this is one, you see people I've spoken to before about this and I are so alert to it, they laugh. This one, that you're hugging somebody and you're patting them, and that's saying to a bereaved person, oh, there, don't cry. We need people to cry, as my parish priest cried. Or it's saying, I'm very uncomfortable with this, we'll get this over quite quickly. And you watch them, and this is so common, this pat in the back, it's what's it saying? It's certainly not the contact we really, really need. In this day and age when people are struggling, Facebook, what Liam is saying about how people are actually, there's no contact. Facebook just cuts off contact, and we're living so artificially. Whereas a really nice hug. Now for men, it is more difficult. Basically, they're scared of your sexuality, men. Have to say it, you're scared of your sexuality. However, a hold, just, even do what he did, the hand on the arm, or just hold that just a few minutes longer, rather than just do that and let, it's that split second, 10 seconds can make a huge difference to people's lives. And if you can, just to hold somebody, the first stage of holding somebody, you're thinking, oh, who's going to let go? But if you allow that to last, it's amazing the change you can make in somebody's life. You're saying to them, I'm here. And it's not a head-to-head, a quick contact. It's heart to heart. And that's what we all need, because we're bereft, we all of us are bereft of contact. So this evening, I'd like you to experience it. And please give me some feedback, those of you who will, on actually trying it. Try what it seems like, the person beside you, and hold their hand and take it away. Hold it again, a little bit longer, and I'll time you and take it away. And a third time, hold it and really make contact. You don't need to look into eyes, there's nothing going to be kind of woo-woo about this. Just experience it with your heart. So if you turn to the person beside you. The first one just meant that a quick one.
Have we done that?
And then of 15.
You're not going
Would anybody like to comment what that was like?
It was excellent.
Thank you.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, physical contact with people in the form of a handshake is a wonderful thing. I come from a hugging family, so I understand this. I was at something yesterday, just to follow up Kit's heart. I was at something yesterday then when my nephew returning home, and when I went into the room, as we would have done for years, threw our arms around one another, there was a big queue of people behind. And we were pulled apart because all the other people wanted to go. But that's what we do, we've always done that. And it's important.
No, as Nick was saying there, like in my family, we all hug. And when I meet people on the street and I'm being introduced to them for the first time, I don't just shake their hand, because I feel to shake their hand is keeping a distance. I shake their hand, but I also take them by the arm.
Yeah.
And that lasts for whatever, 15, 20 seconds. Makes an awful difference.
And the lovely thing is, it's a really good example of giver's gain, because not only are you stimulating their vagus nerve and all the organs right throughout their body, but both of you are getting it at the same time. Any other?
I think it's about being present when you actually do it. About being present and recognising actually what you're doing as opposed to just doing it for the sake.
It's within 24 hours of someone having a terminal diagnosis in hospital, research has shown that the person who's being diagnosed, even though they haven't been actually told, knows the diagnosis. And the reason they know is because with an illness such as cancer, people stop touching. So people who are seriously ill need to touch, and a really heart touch more than ever at that moment. And at that moment, that's when they're not getting it. It is so important to remember that people we're with really need it. And you can actually stimulate, it assists people who are feeling depressed. It actually affects that. It stimulates the pituitary gland, which floods the body with oxytocin, a feel-good chemical plus other chemicals. It's so easy and yet so profound. Any other?
We're out of time, please, really, to mind one. Thank you.
Or anything like that. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Exciting.